Welcome back guys. In the last two lectures we have discussed about the context API related topics. Now in this video we are going to use all the topics and we are going to build a movie project. If you observe the demo here, we have three components in the page. The first component is navbar component, and the second component is add movie component, and the third component is movie list component. In the navbar component we can able to see how many movies are present in the list, and in the add movie component we can add the movies to the list, and in the movies list component we can get all the list of the movies. First of all, I will add a movie in this using add movie component. Here I will add the movie Inception, and the director name is Nolan. If I add the movie, the count will increase in the navbar and the movie will be displayed in the movie list. I will click on the add movie button. Here you can see the count is increased from 0 to 1. The total movies count 1, and we got the movie name and director name in the movies list. Inception, directed by Nolan. If you want to add the second movie also, you can do that. Here I will add the second movie, Avengers, and the director name is John Whedon. I'll click add movie button. Here you can see we got the second movie Avengers, directed by John Whedon, and the count is also increased from 1 to 2. I will add the third movie, Bahubali. It's one of the Indian movie directed by Rajamouli, and I'll click this add movie button. Here you can see the count was increased from 2 to 3, and we also got the third movie in the movies list, Bahubali, directed by Rajamouli. Now this is the project what we are going to build it with the topics of context API. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Here you can see in the Visual Studio Code is open. Now I will click on the terminal and I will select new terminal, and in this I will create a new project with the command npx create React app followed by the application name. Here our application name is movies app. Press enter. It will start creating a new React application for us. Here you can see the project created successfully. A new folder with the name movies app is added in the React projects folder. Click here to expand it. Now we will navigate into this movies app folder by using the command cd movies app. Now we have to execute it using the command npm start. The application executed successfully. Now I will open Google Chrome and let's run localhost 3000. Here I will type localhost 3000. This is the default output for every React application. First of all, let's remove all the default stuff in the app.js file. Click on the source folder and select app.js file, and I'll remove all the header part, and I will write only one h1 text, h1, and I will write the lecture name as movies app. Now let's see the output whether all the default stuff has gone or not. Here you can see all the default stuff has gone. Now we have to create three child components. The first component is navbar, and the second component is add movie component, and the third component is movies list component. Let's create these three components in the src folder, means source folder. The first component name is navbar.js, and the second component name is add movie.js, and the third component name is movieslist.js. First we have to create the navbar. I will create functional component in this navbar. Import React from React. Afterwards we have to create a function followed by the function name. I will return one h1 tag, h1, This is navbar, and we have to export it. Export default navbar, and I'll copy this text and I will paste it in remaining two component. We have to just replace this navbar with the add movie. Add movie. In the h1 text also I will replace navbar with the add movie. Add movie component. In the export statement also I'll do the same thing. Add movie, and I'll copy the same text in movies list. Movies list, this is navbar. Instead of this we have to write this is movies list component. Movies list component, and we have to export this movies list component also. Movies list. Now we have to import all these three components in the main component, which is called as app.js component. Here first of all I will import all the three components. Import navbar from navbar. Import add movie from add movie, and import movies list from /movies list. Now we have to add all these child components in the div. First I will add the navbar component, followed by the add movie component, and at last we have to add the movies list component. Let's see the output. Here you can see we got all three components. This is navbar component, and this is add movie component, and this is movies list component. Now we have to create one context file in which you have to store the data of related movies. In the source file I will create one context file with the name movies context.js. In this first we have to create the class component and the movies provider. To create class components, first we have to import React, and we also have to import the component from React. Now we have to export one movies provider, const movies provider equal to create context. This is the syntax of any provider, and we have to export this by using the export syntax. Export const movies provider is equal to create context. Now we have to create the class component after exporting the movies provider. Class followed by the class name. Here the class name is movies context. In this class we have to write render method. Here I forgot to add the extend keyword. Extends react.component, and we have to remove these curly braces because it is not a function, it is a class component. That's why we have to remove this parenthesis. Now the syntax is correct. In this render method we have to return this movies provider tag, less than symbol movies provider dot provider, greater than symbol and afterwards we have to write the value in it. First we have to create some data in this class component. To create data in the class component, we have to use state object. To use state object, first we have to create the constructor. In this constructor we have to use the super method. Now we have to create the data using state object. This dot state is equal to, this is an object. In this we have to write every data in the form of key value pairs. If you observe the actual project, in this we have two variables. The first one is array, because we are storing all the movies names and movies director names in the array. We have to create the array with the name movies. And we also have to create one function which is used to add movie. So we have to create two things in the context file. The first one is movies array and the second one is add movie function. First let's create the movies array. Movies, and I will initialize it with empty array, because starting there is no element, there is no movie in the array. We have to add it using the add movie component. That's why I have initialized it with empty array. And afterwards we have to create the add movie function. Add movie, I will write the function name as this dot add movie. And we have to create the function definition using the arrow function. Const, here we should not use const because it is an arrow function. Add movie is equal to parenthesis followed by the arrow symbol. In this we have to write the definition. Before writing the definition, first we have to write the logic for adding a movie in add movie component. Let's go to add movie component and we will create the input fields and button for adding a movie. Here I will remove the h1 statement. Instead of h1 statement, I will return one div. In this div, I will return two input elements and one button. Input text is equal to, type is equal to text, and placeholder is equal to movie name. And I will write the second input. Type is equal to text and placeholder is equal to director name. After the two input fields, we have to create one button with the text add movie. And I will use br tags after every input field. br. And above these input fields, I will write this component heading as add movie. Add movie. Now let's see the output, whether the component is created or not. Here you can see the add movie component is created. We have two input fields in the add movie component and we also have a button. After clicking the button, this value should go to the context file and the array should be added with one object. Now we have to write the logic for that. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. First I will create two variables with the help of hooks to access these in input elements. Const movie name and set movie name is equal to useState. Whenever you want to use this module useState, first you have to import these in the React statement in the curly braces. If you do not import these, it will raise errors. So make sure you have importing the useState module in the React. And like the same way, we have to create the another variable for the director also. Const director and set director name. Set director name, and we also have to initialize it with empty string. useState. In this we have to write empty string. Now we have to use these two variables, movie name and director name, in these input elements. Here I will write the value as movie name, and we will write on change for it. On change is equal to, in the curly braces we have to write the arrow function which takes the event as parameter, and set movie name e dot target dot value. Now we have to write the same thing for director name also. Value is equal to director name, and afterwards I will write the on change method. On change is equal to, in the curly braces you have to write arrow function. Here e is the parameter, and we have to update the director value by writing the method called set director name e dot target dot value. Now we have to write the on click function for this button. On click. Here I will write the function name as add. Now we have to create this add function after the initialization of variables. Function add. In this add function I will create one object for storing these two variables at one place, where movie equal to movie name as same movie name only, comma, and the director name as same director name. Whenever you want to work with more than one variable, you have to use objects. After declaring the object, you have to send these objects to the movies context file. In this movies context file, we have a method called add movie. In this add movie only, we have to add this object to the array. First of all, we have to send this object to the movies context. So to access movies context, first we have to import this movies provider in the add movie component. Here I will import the movies provider, import movies provider, and we have to write this movies provider in the curly braces. From, in the single colons you have to write the file path movies context. Now we have to create one object to this provider. I will create the object as const obj equal to use context. Before using the use context also, you have to import these in the React statement in the curly braces only. Use context, we have to write the provider name. Here the provider name is movies provider. Movies provider. Now you have to use this object to send this movie object to the movies context file. Obj dot, the function name which is used for adding movie is add movie. We have to use obj dot add movie, and we have to send the object as the parameter in which we have stored the movie details, movie name and director name. Here we have to send the movie object. Now the code in add movie component is completed. Here we got two errors in the movies context.js file. Create context is not defined and your render method should have return statement. So while writing the movies context file, we forgot to add the use create context module in the React statement. That's why it is raising error. After component, you have to write create component. And we also forgot the adding return statement in the render method. So whatever the statements you write in this render method, that should be in return only. Return. Now press Ctrl S. Here you can see there is no error. Now we have to access the movies provider in the navbar component to display how many movies are present in the movies list. So instead of writing h1, I will write div. Div. In this div, I will write the h1 with the value the total movies count, and here we have to write how many movies are present in the movies list. So to get how many movies are present in the movies list, first we have to import the movies provider. Import movies provider from /movies context, and this movies provider must be in curly braces. After importing, we have to create one object to this movies provider. I will create an object using const obj equal to use context. Here, before using the use context also, we have to import that using curly braces. Use context, the context provider name is movies provider. Now we have successfully created the object for movies provider. By using this object, we can get the number of movies in the array. So if you observe the movies context, the array name is movies. We just have to write movies.length using that array. The length returns how many movies are present in the movies array. Here I will write obj dot, the array name is movies, and we have to write length. So it will return how many objects are present in the movies array, means how many movies are present in the movies array. I'll press Ctrl S. Here you can see there are no errors. Now we have successfully created the navbar component and the add movie component. Now we have to import the context file in the app.js, and we have to place all the child component in that context tag only. First of all, I will import the context file. Import movies context. Before importing, we should check whether we have successfully exported that component or not. In the movies context, we have to export that first. Here we forgot to export. Try export default the class name. Here the class name is movies context. Movies context. Now we can able to import this movies context. From in the single colons, you have to write the file path movies context. Now we have to place all the child components in the movies context tag. First of all, I will create the movies context tag. Movies context greater than symbol. In between these tags, you have to place all the child components. Here I will place the child components. Now we have to provide the data to the all child components in the movies context file. Here we have created the provider, but we have not provided the data. So to provide data to the child components, you have to write value is equal to, in this we have to write what data you want to provide to the child components. Here I want to provide all the data which is present in the state object. To provide entire this state object, we just have to write triple dots this dot state, and in between these movies provider tags we have to write this dot props dot children. In the curly braces you have to write this dot props dot children. These statements states that all the child components are able to access the data which is provided by the movies context. Now our program is completed. Let's check the output. Here you can see, first we have to check the output, afterwards we have to add the styling it. First of all, I will add the movie name as Avengers, and I will write the director name as John Whedon. John Whedon. I will click the add movie button. Here you can see there is no change in the count because we have added the movie, but we didn't retain the add movie logic in the movies list.js, not movies list.js, movies context.js. Here you can see the add movie function is empty. So here we have to receive the object from the child and we have to add that movie to the movies array. That's why here the array is not updating. It is showing the array length 0 only. So after receiving the object, we have to accept that object and we have to push that object to the movies array. Now let's write the logic. So to update any variable in the state object, first we have to write the setState method. SetState, in this setState method, we have to accept one object. In that object, the first thing is key. Here the key name is movies, single colons, not single colon, it is a colon. And we have to update the value using the spread operator. If you don't know about the spread operator, please watch the spread operator topic in the ES6 at the top of the sections. Here first I will write triple dots movies, comma, and I will write the object name movie. Here we have to import the object because we are exporting it from add movie. Here we are sending the object using the movie parameter, and we have to import that parameter in here, movie. And I'll press Ctrl S. Now let's see the output. Here we got an error. Movies is not defined. Here I forgot to write this dot state, that's why it is raising error. After triple dots you have to write this dot state, because this movies array is present in the this dot state object. That's why we have to write this dot state followed by the array name. Now I will press Ctrl S. Here you can see there is no error. Now let's check the output. Here I will write the movie name as Inception, and I will write the director name as Nolan. I'll click the add movie button. Here you can see the count is increased from 0 to 1. Here we are updating the navbar component value using the add movie component by the help of context API. I will add the second movie with the title Avatar, and I will write the director name as James Cameron. I'll click the add movie button. Here you can see the count is increased from 1 to 2. Whenever you add any new movie, the count will be increased by 1 time. Up to now we have created only 2 components, navbar component and the add movie component. Now we are left with only one component, that is movies list component. After adding any new movie into the array, we have to get that movie details in this movies list component. In the next video, we are going to create the movies list component. Thank you.